Bro, we're so grateful that you're here.
Man, thank you for having us, bro.
And just yesterday, man, just once again, just thank you for coming and pouring into our church.
It was fun.
Thanks for having fun. Maybe just really quick, I think it's fun. Like, why don't you, like, what was your experience? Like, what's your vantage point? You go to so many different places. Maybe, like, maybe because it helps us, right?
Yeah.
Like, everyone wants to think that they're doing something unique.
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the unique things that you kind of even see in this community?
The biggest thing that I love I knew your pastor or your leader before I met all of you. And it's so cool that you guys actually duplicate DNA and then multiply it. Like, I could know how your leader was by how I experienced Boo Church yesterday. And that's a huge deal. Because a lot of people, they do their own things, they have their own language. I know that Pastor Rich says, so good. Because y'all say, so good. I know that you say beautiful. Because I know that because I can hear it and it doesn't seem like a robot. It seems authentic, but the DNA has translated. You guys celebrate all the time. You meet people with a smile. You have such a heart to serve people, and not just the people. We had several people that were guests, and their experience. Like I had an aunt that came. They were up for a wedding from Dallas, and they came, her and her daughter, and what they were saying, and they weren't the guest speaker or anybody else, but their experience. So I think one of the cool things is the culture of this place is strong, and you need to guard that. And you need to pump more into it, and you need to make sure that you're unified, because there's a huge impact that it leaves on people when you leave. So the culture is beautiful, and I think the other thing is it just seems fun. I go a lot of places in churches weak. Like it is only about the main thing, and it's getting you saved, even if we're mad doing it, and even if it's something that is. We know we're supposed to do, but we're not having fun doing it. You could sense the joy of the Lord. And that was strength for other people.
Wow.
When the Bible says the joy of the Lord will be your strength, I think it's other people's strength too.
It's great.
So like when you come into a joyful atmosphere, like that may be the thing to lift everybody else up. And so, I mean, I told Rich when I walked in, I said, man, y'all are building something next level here. And you guys don't need to take it for granted. It's sexy, it's cool, you're in Miami, you know it, it's Boo, like who has a church named Boo? Like all these, you know what I'm saying? All these other things, but please don't get it twisted. Like when you cut this open, God is in this thing and he's trying to represent what he wants for humanity through a place like this. And so don't take it for granted, because God could be doing a lot of things, a lot of other places, and he's doing it here. So be encouraged, man. It's awesome.
Beautiful. I think it's fun. Maybe you've answered this question like a whole lot this past year, but I just find the story to be so encouraging and so like a God story. And so I think as believers, we need stories like this to hear that really like build our faith. But can you just maybe like break down just a little bit of like your story of getting on staff at Transformation, what this last year has sort of looked like, and just some of the timelines, some of the key moments. Just I think it's be helpful for everyone here.
Okay, so realistically, this really has been the craziest 10 years of my life, because and I say that because a lot of people think it started last year, but anything that God does great has a long runway.
Beautiful.
Like, so no plane gets up in the air in this much runway. So I want you to know that we've had a long runway, even though we didn't know we were on a runway. So that's the beautiful thing. Like, you think you're on a dirt road, like just riding a bike, and it turns into the runway that's going to be something huge. And so me and my wife, I married her in 2010. We've been high school sweethearts. I met her when I was 15 years old, and she was 14. And that was the greatest gift that God gave me in my life, was meeting her. And when we transitioned, she was fully supportive, because I'm a music producer by trade. Like, that's the only job I've ever had other than pastor. I had my own production company. I was producing music for Universal and HBO and doing stuff like that. And so I was music. Played drums since I was 2 years old, traveled, been on tour, all those other things. So music. And so it's so crazy how God will mess up your plan to get you in purpose. And so we were en route to moving to LA or New York, and my parents, they're people of prayer. And my mom and dad, man, they're the most beautiful people, and I honor them because they will obey God. In 2008, they started a church. And I told them, this is the dumbest thing you could ever do. Like, y'all are 50-something years old starting a church, like, and you can't even start on Sunday mornings. You're going to have to do on Sunday night because they're full-time itinerant ministers. And so they were usually preaching somewhere on Sunday mornings and then would fly back so they could preach to their church on Sunday night. I was like, this is dumb. Don't do it. And I didn't go for 8 months. But God knew the only way that I would get in ministry is if he put my parents in a position that they needed help. So I didn't go for 8 months, and I was running sound at the church. It was called Greenwood Christian Center. I was running sound at this church when I wasn't out of town on tour. And so on Sunday nights, about 8 months into my parents starting the church, Spirit and Truth Praise and Worship Center.
That's a good name.
That was powerful, anointed, walk in, fall out name. Like,
Just
yes.
the name alone.
Right there.
Preach.
Yeah, bro. Wait till you see the logo. I'm not playing. So we literally, I felt like, man, it's my family. I got to at least help them with the music. So I started going to Sunday nights to help them with the music. Maybe 4 weeks after I started helping them with the music, my mom comes to me in this deep prophetic kind of tone, and she's like, God told me, you're supposed to do something with the youth. I said, you have 4 other sons. And you only have 7 people in your church. Why would I be doing anything with the youth? She said, God said you're supposed to do something with the youth. Wow. And so about a month later, I said, okay, you want 4 people in your church? We're going to do it. And I was just being sarcastic and just a brat, just because I didn't think anything of it. And so we started, and God told me 4 things before I walked into the room. And I had never studied. I had never preached a message. I'd never been in front of anybody. He said 4 things. He said, I want you to be real. I want you to tell on yourself. I want you to love them first and don't judge them. Wow. That's it. So I walked into the room. It was 7 people. Brenton was there. Jonathan was there. It was 3 of my brothers, his brother and sister. So that was 6 and 1 random person. and we started on that first day, and it was called So Fly. And they named it Sold Out Free Life Youth. So Fly. Our mascot was a fly.
That's good.
It was great. And for the next 6.5 months, I would go in there and I would be myself. I would use Bible stories that I learned from like McGee and Me, and like I'm straight.
Skate
like
expectations.
Yeah, bro, like the Odyssey. Like I was like I was just using things that
stuff raised us, man.
I was using things that were stuck in my heart, and I was just sharing with them like, there's a better life than just sleeping with people, smoking weed, and popping pills. And being funny about it and all of that stuff. And within 6 months, 150 young people were coming. All we had was a room. We had no sound system, no microphones, no video games, no nothing. And we just had a circle. And these young people, Brenton was one of the key catalysts. MySpace was out right then. And he started inviting people on MySpace from his high school. And they just started coming. Mind you, at the time, the church had 15 adults in it, 150 young people. And this is why I give so much credit to my parents, because they were faithful over what God called them to do, even though it was the incubator for something much bigger. And a lot of us won't be faithful over the thing that looks less, but it's the thing that's keeping it going. And so I still thought it was a fluke. I still wasn't studying. It was just like this thing that was organically happening. 1 year goes by, and the circle is around the room 3 times. And there's 250 young people coming and 20 adults in the church. And I'm just like, what is going on? In this same time period, the church that I was running sound at on Sunday mornings, the music director moved back home, and the pastor came to me. He's like, I know you do music and stuff. Interim, could you please just take over the music? So I become the music leader at Greenwood Christian Center, and I'm the youth leader, not pastor director, because I didn't know none of those. The youth leader at Spirit and Truth Praise and Worship Center. And one of my only requirements at Greenwood Christian Center was to do Tuesday night rehearsal with the team and come to staff meeting. And I've never been in a staff meeting in my life. I've never worked for anybody, a real job. So this is just kind of like, okay, I'm in a staff meeting. I'm sitting in the very back, like ducked off in the cut, waiting for this to be over every meeting. And one day I'm sitting there listening, and I was like, man, this pastor needs some solid leaders who don't want to be him, who can help him build this church. Wow. And then I would go to my parents, and I'd be like, man, they need some structure. Like, they're doing 3-hour services on Sunday night. This is not gonna grow.
Yeah.
Like, and so one day I felt like I should just say it. And I said, man, y'all came here 30 years ago to help Carlton Pearson build Higher Dimensions. Do you think y'all could come together to do this together? And they were like, nah, that'll never work. And I was like, okay. 3 months later, the Spirit said, say it again. And I said it again, and they both were like, well, maybe. And they started talking to their oversight. Larry Stockstill was Gary McIntosh's oversight, and the late Miles Monroe was my parents' oversight. And June 4th, 2011, the churches merged in a campaign called Better Together, and subsequently I was setting my own trap, bro. Like, subsequently I became the youth pastor. And the first day we did So Fly at Greenwood Christian Center, 500 young people showed up. And that's when I was like, this may be for real. And so I started studying. We did 3 internships. I raised a 12-person leadership team. The church had just went through a financial crisis, and so they couldn't give me a budget. So I had no staff. I had nobody else. I had to raise everybody up. We had to teach the young people how to give. And so we're just in that whole thing. And the pastor comes to me and he was like, hey, we have 2 different cultures in our church. We have this Sunday morning kind of Pentecostal, like churchy church situation in the morning. And then we have this vibrant, like youth thing happening at night. I feel like they're supposed to come together. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He said, you're going to need some more authority to do that. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He said, I want to make you the executive pastor of the church. Wow. I said, what does that mean? He said, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out together. And he made me the executive pastor of the church. I'm 26 at the time. I've no ministry training, no nothing, but he saw something in me that was like, yeah, we can make this work. And so I just went to every conference I could ever go to and was like, yeah, we could do that, and we could do that, and we could do that. And I just start implementing like simple things like sermon series and like let's make sure the people know what we're talking about, and let's give them, like, it was not doing any of those things. So we were doing those things, and I would be preaching on the weekend like once every 2 months. And I was still doing So Fly. And then the pastor had a heart attack. And when the pastor had a heart attack, he survived the heart attack, but while he was gone, I was the only one that could cover. Wow. And so people ask me, did you go to seminary or you did? I said, yep. For 8 months, I preached 4 different messages every week to 4 different crowds of people. Wow. So on Sunday morning, I preached to this older, traditional group of people. On Sunday night, these unsaved, horny youth. And then on Wednesday night, I preached to the people who wanted to go deep in God. And then on Saturday, we had an internship, and I had to teach at that for 8 months every week.
There you go.
And it about killed me,
yeah.
Rich. Like, because I didn't know how to study. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything. I was just relying on the Holy Spirit and ripping everybody off. Like, that was my formula. Like, and so the pastor comes back, and he's like, I need to get my strength up. And so he said, I want you to do 2 weekends a month, and I'll do 2 weekends a month. And I said, okay. And it ended up being more like I was doing 3, he was doing 1. And then this season came where there was no more vision coming. Like, I'm the number 2 trying to, like, what are we doing? Where are we going? How are we doing it? And there was no more vision coming. And I took that as a sign, like, wow, my wilderness season is over. I can go to the promised land now in music. Like, this is easy. Like, I see what I can do over here. And so me and Natalie talked to him, and it's like, yeah, this is the season where we're done with the church, and I'm about to go make this money and pay for the church. Like, was my idea. And so I went in to tell the pastor, and I said, hey, there's no more vision that I feel like I can facilitate in this season. I feel like we've gotten to a great place. And they said, there's no more vision because we don't feel like we have it for the next season. I was like, exactly. So that's why. And then Pastor Debbie, Bishop Gary's wife, said, no, we don't have it because we believe you do.
Wow.
And I said, oh, oh no. This wasn't a threat. Like, I wasn't coming, because Rich, honestly, I had never thought about being the pastor of a church. That never crossed my mind one time. I literally told them, I said, I can't be the pastor of this church. I don't like people that much. That was my exact words. And he said, no. He said, I've seen a lot of pastors, and I've seen it happen in different ways. But then he began to chronicle for me how I've been doing the things a pastor would do. He said, I gave you no budget. And he said, you taught the hardest group of people how to give. And he said, you were able to hire 2 staff members off of what these young people were given. He said they were given $8,500 a month from high school to the first 2 years of college. He said, you taught them with no manipulation how to give. He said, that's what you're going to have to do as a leader. Wow. He said, you raised up a 12-person leadership team who stayed faithful for 3 years with no money. You didn't pay them once. He said, that's what you're going to have to do. Wow. And just begin to chronicle for me, and I didn't even see it. And so me and Natalie began to pray and talk about it. And it's like, maybe this is it. But the thing that got us is he said, I assure you, don't worry, it'll be 5 years from now. So he said, 2019, you would be the pastor of the church. So in my mind, I was like, okay, so now I kind of know where we're going. I can get ready. I can go back to school. I can make friends with Rich Wilkerson. Like I can do some things so I can be prepared for this. And this was May 2014, September 2014, in a random Sunday, he gets up and says, and this is why next year, Pastor Mike will be your new lead pastor. I grabbed my wife's knee so hard on the front of that. And I said, did he tell you something he didn't tell me? And she was like, no. And we're just sitting there smiling. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on right now. And it wasn't even 6 months later that the tide began to change. Like when he said it, a leader rose up in me. Like I could feel it. Like I could feel like I'm supposed to change this. I'm supposed to do something. And so February 1st, 2015, 3 days into our 21 days of prayer and fasting in January 2015, the Holy Spirit told him, he said, if he's not the pastor February 1st, it's not going to be good. And he called me right out of prayer and he said, we about to do this thing now. And I said, do what thing? He said, you're about to be the pastor of Transformation Church. Wow. February 1st, 2015. And all I can say is there was a supernatural grace that came over me and Natalie's life when we were handed that baton. And it was so crazy because he was a white pastor in his 60s that came to the hood to start a church because in 1921, there was one of the most horrible race riots that happened in Tulsa that they do not teach in schools that happened right there where the church is planted. And God told him to go there and reverse the curse. So one of the only at the time examples of a white pastor pioneering something and handing it to an African-American leader, next generation leader. And so this was like the culmination of reversing the curse in this area. And when I stood there, it was an all-black church pastored by a white pastor. And God told me, he said, you're not supposed to do it like this. He said, I want you to build a multi-church. And I said, okay, God. And he always tells me 4 things. Like, I don't know what this 4th thing is. But it's right before I got up there, he said, I want you to say this the first day you become the pastor. He said, you're going to be a multi-ethnic church, a multi-generational church, a multi-campus church, and a multiplying church. And I want you to tell them on the first day that's what you're going to be. So I stood up there. We got a video of it. And I'm standing there shaking. I'm like, hello. And I stand up there and I say it to everybody. And at the time, we were none of those things. Wow. And Rich, all I can tell you, man, is the grace of God has overshadowed every one of our deficiencies. Wow. And if you walk in a Transformation Church right now in the hood of Tulsa, it's 60% white people. And I'm dressed in Jordans and ripped jeans and Yeezys and hoodies. And there's middle-aged, the whole Glee Club is at. I'm not playing. Our church looks like heaven. Come on. Like every generation, grandmother all the way to grandchild, sitting on the same row worshiping God together. And so we've been able to see God do exponential things through the plan that he had set in motion. And that's how we kind of got to the Transformation Church side of it. Now, the whole explosion thing, that's a whole nother story.
So let's just hear a little bit of that story.
Just go into it.
I like the way this interview's going, man. It's story time with Mike Todd.
Story time.
Yeah. I think it's inspiring.
Well, I think the biggest thing is when God calls you to something, he'll never show you what it's going to be fully. That's why you walk by faith and not by sight. And that's why you have to have a vision. And vision is what you see with your eyes closed. Sight is what you see with your eyes open. And too many people are living their life by sight, not by vision. So when I took over Transformation Church, God told me not to look at what it is now, but look at what you see on the back of your eyelids. And so daily I would close my eyes and I would envision Transformation Church. Because the sight was depressing. Like what I saw was depressing. The first year, I lost my entire staff. Like all my friends, everybody that helped me build the youth ministry, everybody that was doing it, every one of them either had to be fired, let go, or had a different season in life. There was a time where I was standing there. I was the graphics designer. I was the music director. I was the pastor of the church. I was over all creative. I learned how to do video, everything. It was me and a business person. That's all Transformation Church was. 1 year into it. And God said, close your eyes and get the vision. And so that season was super hard because I always thought I could do it if I had the squad. Like, as long as I got a team, like, we can do it. And God was like, yeah, no team. I need you to know you were called to this besides anybody else.
Wow, it's great. It's huge.
So he took away all my props, I didn't, because I was good with things. Like, I was overcompensating for my deficiencies with other things that could make it awesome.
Wow.
And so the music made it awesome. And God told me to stop paying all the musicians. So all my good musicians left. He said, I want to go back to the heart of worship. And these people are coming for money. And so I want you to pay them for 2 months and have them not play and do pastoral-led Bible studies and create YouTube worship set lists and do that live on Sunday morning. And I visioned our church. Y'all, I was crazy, bro. I visioned our church into it, and we did a series called 20 Forever. It's actually the series that I'm in right now, but it was one of the first series that I did before we had cameras, before we had video. And I said, I'm going to teach you how to worship the King, because we will have a culture of worship in this church. And I said, so it will not be about who's on the platform. It's going to be about us worshiping God. And I would cut up Carrie Job and Israel Houghton, and I would get YouTube clips, and I'd put it together with like a pad bed behind it, because I'm a music producer, so I could kind of figure out how to do it. And we would do 18-minute worship sets with nobody on the platform for 2 months.
I love it.
And I led them every Tuesday in pastoral-led Bible studies, and I said, everybody who wants to stay for the vision after this, let's do it. And all them good musicians left. Yeah. And God said, okay, close your eyes, see the vision. And it was like all this like foundational stuff that I didn't see it all coming together, because I'm not that structured in my mind. I'm more of a creative. But God will get you to whatever place you need to be if you listen to him. Wow. And so I'll say I'm not naturally that structured and all that other stuff, but if God's telling me something, he's a structured God. He's an organized God. And so we really just have to listen to him. And so I was just listening. And long story short, we come up into 2016, and we always gather around a word for the year. And God said, we're going to go beyond. Like, this is our year to go beyond. And the budget, I mean, when you transition a church, usually they tell you the first 2 to 3 years, the budget and the people are going to go down. And then if it's a good transition, it'll start going back up. God's so faithful. He sustained us at the same number of people and the same budget for 2.5 years. So all the transition I have, there are about 500 people coming. Every Sunday we had one service at 10 a.m. and the budget was $1.2 million. And it was like that for 2.5 years. And then God said, go beyond. And so I started getting up there yelling beyond, wearing t-shirts that said beyond, getting songs that said beyond, just doing anything I could do to help people know. But I just know I heard God to do that. And that year we grew 400 people, and the budget grew $400,000.
Wow.
And so y'all, 2017 was the best year of my life. Like, it was just like, God, you're faithful. You haven't left us. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so we're coming into that. We get to August of 2017. And God speaks to me because I'm preparing for this next year. We're in beyond, so I'm thinking the next word's going to be explosion or like detonation, or you know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. Like, and he said stride, STRIDE. I'm like, I've never used that word, like stride. Like, what is that? I had to literally look it up. And stride means to walk in long, decisive steps in an intentional direction. I was done with the first word, walk, because I'm a runner.
You're right.
Like you give me this much, I'm going to rip a hole in it. Like, and that's my nature. Anything I'm given, I'm going to grow it and all this other stuff. And God said, stride. And so for 3 months, I just acted like God missed it. Like, this wasn't the word he said. Like, the team was asking me, what's our word? Because they got to print T-shirts for it and all this other stuff. And I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe it's something that God's doing. And God kept saying stride. It all culminated December 5th, 2017. So we're coming up on almost a year anniversary. When we were in a strategic operation meeting, and we had somebody that was facilitating this tool on our church. And we talked about how much growth happened and what God did and how he expanded the budget. And Tim Ross is one of our oversight pastors at the church, and he's sitting in the meeting, and he just stands up in the middle of it and he said, hey guys, this is amazing what God has done, but this is not sustainable. We need to slow down. We need to stride. And it's the only time I've ever heard anybody else use the word. And the Holy Spirit said, I told you. Wow. And so we're in that meeting, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? So that whole night, we spend all night like, I'm like, how can we slow down right now? How can we start walking? And I mean, I'm intense. Like, and then we came, and Tim Ross, if you know him, he has Bible for everything. Right. Like, I mean, he can go to the Bible for anything. And as we were dialoguing, we came to the conclusion that Jesus fulfilled every messianic prophecy ever spoken about him. Thousands of years of prophecies. He did it in 3 years, and you never hear about him or the disciples running to their next appointment. Wow. They walked everywhere. And you never hear, and in haste, the disciples dipped because there was a miracle. Like, you never hear that. Yeah. And they walked to Samaria, and they walked. And I mean, this is the king of the universe, and he could have at least had a horse or a carriage. And the only time we find him in the Bible on an animal, it's a donkey, a walking animal. Wow. It's beautiful. Bro, I have, like, the revelation I have around this is so crazy. And so I said, okay, God, we're going to stride. We're going to do less so you can do more. And this was the phrase he gave us. You need to find the pace of grace. Wow. Like, there is a pace that I will give grace for. And pace is not fast or slow. Pace is set. It's beautiful. So right now, if I say, everybody clap with me. Come on, everybody clap with me. Let's speed it up. Let's speed it up. So I set the pace and you followed it.
That's great.
What God wants us to do as church leaders is see what pace he's setting in the season.
It's beautiful.
So there'll be some seasons where the pace is like this, and you'll have grace for this pace. And everything you do outside of this pace, you're going to have to sustain.
Wow. It's really good.
See, it's the difference between striding and striving. When you strive, you use all your effort and energy to make it happen. When you stride, there's a grace for what God is asking you to do.
Beautiful.
And this culminates, am I okay?
You're doing awesome. I love it.
This culminates in a couple of different stories in the Bible. And I just feel led to share this because of how influential you are. When Jairus comes to Jesus and says, you know what? My daughter's dying. Can you come and heal her? Jesus says yes, but he starts walking. How do we know he starts walking? Because Jairus is frantic at this moment. It's like, bro, my daughter's dying. You can heal her. Let's go. Nobody goes to the emergency room slowly. You're doing that fast. So I can imagine Jairus being like, all right, Jesus, do you need help packing up? What do you need? We got to go. And Jesus walks. How do we know he walks? Is because he was walking at such a pace that two things happened. That there was a crowd that was able to keep up with him. And two, that a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years could reach out and touch the hem of his garment. If he was running, she would have never been able to even touch him. So he was walking. And it's crazy because Jairus, in my mind, is probably out in front. Jesus in this crowd is here. And Jairus is probably turned around, backpedaling like, hey, come on. And Jairus kind of represents Western culture right now. And even in the church, like, we got to grind, we got to hustle, we got to make this happen. We got to make this, we got to do this. And God told me, you can't make my plan for you come to pass more than I want it to come to pass for you. Like, I knew this before you did. Like, and so what ended up happening is Jesus doesn't just keep walking. He stops and he turns around and meets the need of this woman. And I imagine at this moment, Jairus is like, what the heck? Like, we're going to miss this opportunity. It's going to pass us by. Like, we had a window of opportunity to kill this, to crush it, to make it happen. And we're going to miss it. But Jesus is not rushed because he's in the pace of grace. You know the story. When he turns around from the woman, they come back and say, hey, your daughter's dead. Don't even bother the master. Long story short, Jesus is like, no, I'm still coming because I'm graced for this. And he gets to the house. He heals the woman. Long story short, that because Jesus was in the pace of grace, because he wasn't running to the situation and he was walking to it, he was able to heal two people's issues in one day because Jesus found the pace of grace. And so God was just telling me, he said, Mike, there's a pace that I'll give you and I'll set that I'll do more when you do less. Because at the end of the day, I'll get the glory and you'll still have your health with your wife. Like, I'll still grow the church and people will still like you because you're not an a-hole. Like, because a lot of people get in this make it happen thing and then they lose who God created them to be, trying to build what he called them to build. And so this culminates at this moment. We go in to start striding. I stand up and I tell my staff that next day, I said, guys, we're canceling Christmas. And we had a huge Christmas production. This is the second largest time where souls come into the kingdom. He was like, cancel Christmas. I want you to stride. And I was like, guys, I don't know what we're doing, but we're going to have a regular service on Christmas. No special flyers, no special music, no nothing. We're just going to do it. And I just feel like we need to stride. And all at the same time, my whole staff was like, and I was like, okay, let's see what God does. So we're twiddling our thumbs. December 10th, December 15th, December 20th. Like, and I'm feeling anxious because I feel like as a pastor, I'm failing. Like, we're about to miss people. Our window is about to close. Like, what's happening? December 22nd, a girl that I do not know, does not go to our church, posted a 10-minute clip of me preaching on relationships on Twitter back in August when God gave me the word stride at the beginning. And she posted it on Twitter, and 2 million people saw it in 48 hours. Wow. Y'all, I can't make this stuff up. And literally since 6 months after I became the pastor of the church, we have been putting everything that we did on Sundays on YouTube. And so we had 1,800 YouTube subscribers. And if 300 to 400 people watched our sermon back on a week, we were literally high-fiving in staff meeting because we almost saw as many people that were in butts and seats on virtual church, and we were creating a win out of everything. And all I know is I have 4,000 Instagram followers in December of this past year, and every day it was going up 10,000 people. So like 14,000, 24,000, 34,000, like for a month. Every day, 10,000. I'm like, what's going on? Because I wasn't even on Twitter. Chris Harvey, my man right here, he started a Twitter for me and just started putting quotes on it that I would say from Sunday. I didn't even know I had a Twitter. So this, no, but this is how I want you to see. It was almost as if God was like, I want you to do less. I wanted to know that this was in your heart. Because what I want to do with you, I want to know it's all for my glory. And I mean, 30 days, we went from 1,800 YouTube subscribers to 180,000. And I mean, it just, since then, it's just been one thing after the other, after the other. I think, how many people are subscribed on YouTube right now? Almost 500,000 people in the past 9 months. And so every Sunday, like, we post our sermon up on Monday at 12. And did it go up today? At 12? Okay. You just got to check. He's in Miami right now, so I'm trying to make sure the team is covered. Yeah. But it goes up at 12, and by Saturday at 12, 100,000 people have watched it. Wow. And these are the things that you can't plan. You just can steward.
Wow. That's great.
And so for us, it's been a lot of people like, where did he come from? And then people call and they're like, bro, who did you hire, bro? Who's your marketing? What's happening? We've been doing the same thing on Instagram and all this stuff for the past 4 years. Yeah. You can go back, like if anybody wants to do a case study, I've been doing the same thing. This is a story of being prepared for whenever God blesses you. It's beautiful. We've been consistent when I had 24 people liking my pictures of me and Natalie. Like, I post a picture date night and 24 people would like it. And it was consistent, and now 24,000 people will like it. Like, it's not about what we were doing. It was about God knowing we were ready to handle what he wanted to do. And so a couple of major engagements happened after that. I'll tell the funny story of how we first connected. Or you start telling, like, when you text Paul, and I don't know what you saw or something like that.
I think I saw something in December or January of this young guy preaching. I thought what he was saying was really good. And I think I either went back to your church page or your page, and I'm big into aesthetic and big into design. I was like, oh yeah, this is my kind of tribe of people. Who is this? And I'm like, Tulsa. I'm like, why do I not know of this church? And this is like really in line with the way that we would want this to be said. And there's all these nuance to things. So the only person I knew in Tulsa is Paul Darty. I'm like, Paul, who is this guy, Mike Todd? I was like, give me his number. I want to reach out to him. And he's like, oh, I've known Mike for years, and he sent me your number. And then I think I stalled on sending you a text. I can't remember why I didn't. And then I think it was in January. Me and Oliver and Nick were at Fellowship Church, and I looked at C3 speaking. I look over, I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like, this guy's here. And so then we connected. Yep. And I think months later, I even showed you my text with Paul, like trying to figure out. But then this is the best story ever. This is like, it's almost annoying to even say it aloud, but it's like, it's fun because we're all family here. But like, Mike, man, I really need you to come and preach the Sunday after Easter. I would be honored to have you at VU. So I got to be out that day. I think our church would love you. Just wanted to introduce you. He's like, oh man, I would love to be at VU that Sunday. Unfortunately, I'm preaching for Stephen Furtick at an Elevation that Sunday. I was like, man, I should have sent that text back in December.
But I mean, and God's honestly, like,
but it's just indicative towards the season of life. It's like, no worries, man, no worries. Like I would probably go with that one too.
Yeah. But it's crazy. Like, literally, Natalie was sitting right next to me when I made that text, and I was like, Natalie, would you ever imagine that I would be saying no to Rich Wilkerson because I'm about to do Elevation Church? Did you ever think that God would use us in any way to be able to do that? And I'm sitting there like in awe, like, God, how did you do this? And all he said is, I never pick people who are qualified. Yeah. I always call people, I always qualify people who answer the call. That's it. That's who Paul was. Paul was killing Christians, had an encounter with Jesus, and he said yes to the call. And he went on to be one of the greatest apostles. And so, I mean, that's why people ask me, like, how does it feel? I'm humbled. Yeah. Like, every place that I go, every stage that I'm on, it's authentic, it's real. I'm not trying to put on from anybody. Because I didn't get myself here. There was not one call, not one kiss up, not one, God has positioned me, and all I want to do is be ready to be used by him. And so, we're here to serve the church, man, and we're just excited to be a part of it.
I think it's a beautiful story, and I think it's one that we need to hear. I think as we talk through it, like, you got to be able to, like, you got to be able to look at facts and celebrate things, then also go, how does this apply to me and what do I learn? Like, I think it's really important. The reason why I say this is like a really unique time is because 500,000 followers on YouTube, like there's TV networks with like staffs of thousands of people that can't get numbers like that. Now, does that mean one's better than the other? No, like you have to follow out your journey, but I think it's a pretty special thing that 500,000 people are connecting towards the words of what this man is saying week to week. And rather than ever be a critic of that, we always, as a culture, want to be a celebrator of that. You know, we're called to be fishers of men. We don't get to do the catching; we do the fishing. But it's always amazing when you go, "Yo, how you catching stuff over there?" Like, let's talk and you learn. What I love about Mike's story is Mike's not up here going, "Yo, like I'm the man because of this." You actually hear that I've been doing the same thing when it didn't have the popularity, when it didn't have the connection points, and that's where we always have to learn in these moments. And so I want us to always be that both and kind of culture. Wow, let's celebrate what God's doing somewhere. Let's learn from it. But let's hear the facts. The facts were that I'm stewarding the small moments. And I just always want us to be a church. And the reason why we're even talking to Mike this way today, because if we're not careful, we can look on and go, wow, it's awesome. And then compare what you feel like in your life is not awesome and feel less than when it's actually not the story. We're missing the story if that's what we're doing from our perspective. And I just want to continue to publicly say, like, I just think that there's so much more to come for you guys. And I love your heart. I wanted you to come back in December because I think you have so much more to say and so much more to share. And I was texting him the other day. He had written me, which is, by the way, this is like everything he does is like textbook the right way to do things. Before he came to our church, he texted me going, hey, what could I be saying that would help you right now in this season of your church? Do you know how many people come to preach and minister or share that don't ever ask that type of question? So it just already shows his heart. But what I said to him was like, bro, just share what is ever inside of you, what you're fired up about. That's what's going on in the season of our church. But just know, like, you're going to come for the next 30 years, so you don't have to say it all on one Sunday, you know? And I don't say that to every guest, but I said that to these guys. I think there's a whole lot that's in them that only through time can it all come out of you guys. And I think it would be, I know we got some time. I appreciate you going to lengths.
I love this. This is my thing.
You're the best. Maybe for a moment, just because like sometimes it's easier outside of your own like world that's familiar with you and that you're leading. I'll say it for me. Sometimes it's easier for me to be vulnerable and honest outside of the world that I'm trying to lead. Mm-hmm. But where do you feel pressure right now? When you're preaching, are you preaching to the 500,000 or are you preaching to the few thousand? Like how do you separate the two? There's always a presence of mind. You're supposed to be going into a rest a little bit here now. I already asked you to break your rest to come over here, but hopefully that's in your pace. But you have to still think about even today, like, man, did the content go up? What right now, a year from this whole experience, where is there new pressure? Where is there less pressure?
Got you.
Is that appropriate?
Yeah, no, this is good. I think the biggest thing for me, I'll start with who I'm preaching to. We have a target audience. I have a target audience. His name is Stormy. Through Strat Out process, I'm preaching to the same person every Sunday. And I'm preaching to everybody that affects him, but he's my target. So Stormy, we identified this with our team, is a culturally relevant 28-year-old dad who's not married. He is obsessed with convenience. He wants a crew. He desires to be in what is cool in culture, and he's looking for peace, and he's concerned about image. That's what I'm preaching to every Sunday.
Wow.
So why I wear the clothes that I wear, why I talk about my wife, why I do certain different things, he's my target audience. And the thing that I found out is Apple markets to a 13-year-old teenage girl. That is their target audience. And think about me taking a wet tennis ball that I put in paint and then I throw it at a target. If I hit my target, I hit other people with the splatter. If the church would ever find their target, we would get everybody else with the splatter. And so for us, if I target Stormy and I hit him every Sunday, his baby mama's gonna come to my church because she was like, he acting different. He loved me. And so I get her. Stormy's mom is gonna come because she said, I've been working with this boy and praying for him for 6 years. Who's got him doing this? Stormy's crew is gonna come because they just do everything together anyway. Stormy's boss, who he works for, is gonna see the change in his attitude. Who's a 60-year-old white gentleman that he works for a car company? He's gonna come. So if I hit my target audience,
It's great. It's beautiful. It's helpful.
so for me, and everybody's target audience isn't the same, but we identified like Stormy, and honestly, Stormy's my little brother Raphael. That's his life, and so it has a deeper connection to me because if I ever get my little brother fully on fire for God, like we can fold the whole thing up and I'm good. And so if I'm that passionate about seeing other people's children, other people's brothers, other people, that's what, and so that's our target audience. So the reason people ask me like, why do you put secular music behind your clips? I can't focus. Like, this is not for you.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't put this clip up. You came to the church and you know the YouTube link. Go watch it there. There's no music behind it. But when I put this commercial up on my Instagram, I have a target. And if I play a Drake song underneath me talking about the grace of God, it may allow him to stay there for 30 more seconds to where I can grab his heart. And so it's not just like, oh, we're trying to be like the world. I'm trying to reach my target.
It's great.
And so, and you know, I don't say those things publicly, and we don't go back and forth on social media with people, but there's a method behind this.
Yeah.
Because if I get my target audience, everything changes.
Beautiful.
And so there is pressure there to be able to make sure that I'm speaking to him in a culturally relevant way without compromising.
Wow.
And Jesus did this so beautifully. Like he could literally, when he's standing with the woman that was caught in the act of adultery, and he's able to stand with her and not condone what she was doing, but not lose his conviction.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be. Like, I want to be the guy who can stand with whoever that everybody knows is like living the most backwards against God life, but then have the rapport enough to say, but yeah, go, but don't do that no more. Don't sin no more. That's not going to help you. And so that's where a lot of the pressure comes from, is because I got this churchy group over here and I got these unsaved people like, bro, the shade room. I don't know if y'all know what the shade room is. It's basically like how would you describe it? Like a gossip blog for all celebrity crap. Like, but it has almost 15 million followers.
Yeah.
They texted me on Saturday and was like, hey, would you be willing to come on the Shade Room live next Sunday and speak to all of our people for 5 minutes about Jesus or whatever you want to talk about? What? But somewhere along the way, I was able to get to somebody who doesn't even, I mean, it's trashy, it's raunchy stuff, but they feel like, but maybe he could speak to it, and somebody, if they want to hear it, they'll be able to listen. And bro, we're a secret agent church. Bro, we pray and fast more than anything you could ever, like, we're not out here just trying to be cool. There is a deep well that we put in so that when we present, it's more samurai. We gonna cut you up and you don't even know that you had surgery. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's our thing, but that means we have to be so in tune with God. Our discernment has to be right on point. We can't get stuck in petty things. We got to go right to the issues that we have with each other, because there's already division that we have to solve in the world. So we can't be divided with each other. Like, those are the things that we start. So pressures are just thinking. Like, I'm always thinking about those things. It takes me days to stop thinking about those things, just because I know that God's given us a seat of influence, and I want to steward over it well.
So we really believe, you teach what you know, you reproduce who you are.
Yeah.
So for you, there's a personal side of this whole thing that's like, man, your whole life now has been put into a spotlight like never before. But it's not just you and Natalie.
No.
Your whole church has grown numerically on every side, every front. Where would you feel, what's been challenging with growth? I think everyone wants growth, but there's a challenge to growth.
It's growing pains.
What are some of the growing pains that you've faced?
You have never seen anything grow without pain. Everything will have growing pain, down to muscles. Like, if you're working out, you will get sore, there'll be stretch marks, it will be growing pain. If you have a baby, you will have growing pain. And so I just think that we celebrate the growing so much that we never talk about the pain. And so the pains for us are like the leadership gap. Like, we went from having 650 people in 2 services in 1 year to having 3,000 people in 5. Because our space is not big enough to, and so you talk about like leaders, like we need people, and it's like, boom, it happened like that. So, you know, we have time to build leaders and go through 12 weeks of classes and all this other stuff. And so that's been a challenge for us. Another challenge is just knowing who you can trust. Like we've been having to hold people like this because I think it was Bishop Mike Jones that said, back then you didn't want me, but now I'm hot. You're all on. You know what I'm saying? But what ends up happening right there is that there is a fandom that comes with what God is doing, and so you don't know what people's motives are. Are they, where were you at last year? Like, when we needed some serve, now you want to serve the pastor? Like, you've been, like, it's just all of those different things. So it takes a lot of discernment, and my wife is my discerner. Those eyes can see right through everybody. And so I'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And she's like, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, they said everything right and they did everything right. She said, no. There's something there. And I have to trust that. And God, and the few times I haven't, and I was like, no, you need to listen to me. I'm the man of this house. I'm the pastor. It never works out well. It doesn't work out well. She comes back and she's like, I'm not gonna say it, but I told you so. And so those are the things. I think the other dynamic is just our family. We have 3 kids under the age of 5, and so the dynamic, and our middle son is special needs, and we're believing God for a miracle with him. And so it's just everything's growing, everything's pooping on itself, everything's screaming all at the same time. And this is the only thing I can rely on, that I was graced for this pace. So that's why I don't take, that's like at the beginning of the year, and I've told you this, but I'll just share it publicly. Like, at the beginning of January, when God told us to stride, he said, you only need to do 2 engagements a month. You only need to leave Tulsa twice. And I didn't know. I had 4 engagements all of 2017 combined. Not because that's what I wanted to do. That's all that people asked. Like, and from January to May, 650 speaking engagement requests came in. So it was literally, what'd you say? Yeah, my wife had something to do with that number as well. Yeah, right, my wife and the Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Holy Spirit.
Yeah, thank you, Holy Spirit, through my wife. But we had to find the pace. And so just listening, obeying that saved us. We could be in a horrible spot as a marriage, out here trying to provide for my family and make things happen. Girl, you know this is for our future. This is for our kids' college. Nope. God said a word, so if he called us to this pace, he's going to provide at this pace. And so we've had to say no to everything I used to pay to go to. And I think the biggest thing for me, Rich, the biggest doors in the world, where I know there's thousands of dollars on the other side of the yes. And other people, they may think it, but we're not balling. Like, we are on the come up. Do you hear what I'm saying? And I say that to be transparent, because a lot of people would think like, oh, they're doing it and he wearing off-white shoes and stuff. Those are gifts. Like, people are giving me those. Like, I want to be real, because people think that it's something that it's not. And for me, like, we're still on our come up. So me saying no to things is trusting God. It's not just saying no because I got so much we can say no to it. It's saying no and knowing that was $20,000 I said no to. That was possibly a connection. And my no, this is the thing, my no has become anointed. I have an anointed no. And that sounds deep, but anointed just means God's approval. So every time I say no, God says, that's my boy. Because of that no, I got something over here that's not going to take from you that's not going to do this. Because you can find out if it's God if he blesses and it adds no sorrow. Isn't that what the word says? The blessings of the Lord make rich and add no sorrow. Things that we are calling blessings a lot of times aren't because they add a lot of sorrow. And so God's been trying to really build in me that when I do it, there's not a lot of sorrow attached to it. And so that's been the pace that we've been graced for. And Rich, when I tell you that minus the regular life stuff, we are still just as normal as we were a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Because, and most people can't figure out how this level of pressure hasn't done something, but it's been because we really found the pace of grace, man.
Jensen used to preach this message about Moses and his staff. His powerful illustration used to say, you throw the staff on the ground, it turns into a snake. It's like real supernatural. He's like, a lot of people, they go from a staff to a snake, but the question really is, can you go back from being a snake back to just being a staff?
Wow.
And I think there's a challenge in leadership, and there's a challenge in all of us when God uses us in a supernatural way.
Yeah.
Can you still go back to being natural after he uses it in a
Yes,
supernatural
sir.
way? Some people, when God uses them, it destroys them because they don't know how to go back to creating boundaries and guidelines of going, you know what, all along I was just a stick.
Yeah.
There's nothing more than that. God decided to use this.
Come on, man.
And that happens on a small scale, big scale, scales like this. And so it's a lesson that we all need to learn. And I think you're doing a great job with it.
Man,
And
thank you, bro.
you got cheerleaders over here in Miami. We actually do have like work we have to go through today, and most of us would love to sit here and talk all day with you. I do have one little maybe just final thought. We can take 10 minutes or so. I'm obsessed right now in my private time and in discussions of thinking about what does the church look like in the next 15 years. And I think it's silly for us not to get some of your wisdom as to what you see for the church. And I'm not saying for 50 years, but even just like, I think in a lot of ways that you are blazing a path and creating some new models. And models are trends. They come and go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Instagram right now is the tool that we're using. I
it'll
think
be
it's
something
awesome.
different.
It'll be different, but I think that you are leverage those in a really beautiful way, and you've utilized the tools. What are some things maybe you're seeing or thinking about, or maybe you in your private time? You guys are on the creative team there. What are you guys talking about? Where do you see the church going? What does it look like? Or where are we missing it right now? Like, you know?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm no expert or nothing like that, but my goal is to represent God. And that's why I wear it on my clothes and my jackets and everything like that. It's three things. It's to represent God, which is show God differently. It's to represent God. That means to gift God differently. Some of my best gifts are things that somebody once had that they loved, that then they gave to me. They re-gifted it. And that's what salvation should be for all of us. We should represent it and give it to somebody else.
That's great. I love that.
And then we represent God, and that's promoted differently. I have to make a confession. I am a private closet Dallas Cowboys fan. And they always let us down every year, but they won yesterday. And what ends up happening with that whole thing is that I see grown men in snow that own law firms go to a stadium, pay hundreds of dollars for tickets, take off their shirt, paint a star on their belly, and scream for a team that's going to lose. But they promote what they believe in. And there's been this thing in the church where we do not promote not somebody who may or may not win a victory for us, but the one who has won the eternal victory for us, and we won't promote it. And so that's what I'm called to do, and it's for lost and found people. And lost people are God's passion, and found people are God's people. And so a lot of churches pick one or the other, but I believe it's both of them, but it's for one reason: transformation in Christ. And that's our vision as a church, but that's my personal vision. And so I think that's kind of where the whole church has to come to. That's where I see unity being a huge factor in this next mode of ministry, is that the more we can do together, the more the world will see what Jesus has really done. The church is probably the most divisive place in humanity today because it's territorial, like it's your kingdom and my kingdom. But there's only one kingdom. Yeah. And all of us have different parts to play in this kingdom. And if I'm trying to build my retirement fund with Transformation Church and you trying to build this nest egg over here, we will not collaborate. But if we trust God to build his church,
that's good.
Like Like I told Nick, I was like, I'll come 4 times a year. Like, just put me on every quarter, and I want to help build what God's doing here. Like, and most people, I told them this the other day, we have these cards since I started the church called Not Your Cup of Tea cards. And we
great.
literally,
This is good.
at all of the entrances and in our welcome, we tell people, hey, Transformation Church may not be your cup of tea. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to make jokes. The music is going to be rocking. And you may not grow in this atmosphere. What we have done is we have found about 15 other churches in the area. And we suggest that these are some churches you can go check out so that you can grow.
That's great.
Once every few months, on Saturday, when every pastor in the world posts, come to my church tomorrow, I post, hey, we would love for you to come to TC, but here's some other amazing churches who have prayed for you, prepared for you. And I post pictures of the pastor. I post pictures of their location. I put their Instagram. I go and take the time to be their PR agent and push them. Because until we become a kingdom organization,
That's great.
this is all competition in the name of Jesus.
That's great.
And I think that he's not blessing that anymore. And
I agree.
And so what you get is what you have. And I just believe God can do so much more, man, if we build together. So
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.